Happy New Year! I want to start off this year by thanking everyone who has read Books to Mark. It's been really busy, and so thank you for sticking with me with my slightly sporadic posts. January 1st, 2013, first day of the year, and the first video of Books to Mark, which is pretty exciting. My first read this year is This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Just a quick aside before we get into it. Literary Man blog posted a picture of where F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda are buried, and it's a really cool picture. The link is in the doobly-doo description below. So, This Side of Paradise. Get right into it. F. Scott Fitzgerald published this when he got back from World War I. It was his first novel, and it's said to be an autobiography of his early life. The main character was born in the Midwest. His name is Amory Blaine. He was born in the Midwest, goes to prep school in New England, and ends up going to college at Princeton, where he is in the Cottage Eating Club, the Triangle Club, which is a theater club, and many of Amory's acquaintances resemble known friends of F. Scott Fitzgerald from his time at Princeton. So I've been reading with the idea that this novel is very similar to Fitzgerald's life, and it's kind of really affected my reading experience because as a writer myself, I think that to put so much of yourself into a character it's really brave, because any criticisms of that character or of your story are really going to be direct criticisms on you. And I think it's kind of become an inherent knowledge that putting yourself out there is a scary thing to do, and it is, because our world is so many people have something to say, and I think that's always been the case, but even more so today with everything, someone's always going to be commenting or have an opinion on whatever you're doing. And I don't think that Paradise was the only story that had a lot of Fitzgerald in it. I think Gatsby, which is another one of my favorites, I think Gatsby had a lot of Fitzgerald reflected in him. And, for example, in This Side of Paradise on page 88, the narrator is talking about someone who her name is Isabel, and they've been kind of dating almost. And he says, Emery took a somber satisfaction in thinking that perhaps all along she had been nothing except what he had read into her, that this was her high point, that no one else would ever make her think. And I think when I read this, I was like, wow, that is a very Gatsby thing. But this character, Amory Blaine, kind of breaks free from the idolization of, in this case, Isabel, unlike in time to realize that she's not what he wanted. Gatsby idolizes Daisy to the moon and back, quite almost literally, and he makes her into something that she isn't, and she could never live up to that. And I think this character escapes from that. Of course, it's not as extreme. They're much younger, and Emery is more practical than Gatsby. But I think it's interesting that this theme reoccurs in Gatsby after I think it's introduced in This Side of Paradise, and that leads me to believe that it's a very part of Fitzgerald and not necessarily something that he just created for a character. This is just something that I thought was cool. They slipped briskly into an intimacy from which they never recovered. He's talking about two friends. And I think it's interesting that you would have to recover from an intimacy, but it makes total sense. And I think that's the cool thing about Fitzgerald, he, and almost all writers, is that they present things that you think of in ways that you hadn't thought of them before. you know, you never really think of like an intimacy as being a traumatizing thing or something that you might have to recover from. But it is. If you think about it after you've read it, it makes sense. The way this book is laid out is really interesting. There's subtitles in it, like this. There's all throughout. It's broken into very long chapters and kind of subsections, and I haven't really figured out why he's done this yet, but I think it's cool. So I'll probably talk about that in part 2 of my This Side of Paradise videos, I guess. And that will come when I finish the book, which will hopefully be by the end of the week. Otherwise, I will have already gone into exams crazy person studying mode. So, in the meantime, go check out Tumblr, WordPress, and Twitter. All have links in the doobly-doo and in the channel description. And it's just literary stuff and videos, news, reblogging other people's cool posts. So you should go check it out. And if you like what you see, click the follow and like buttons and leave comments because I love to hear what you guys think. So happy New Year and read on, everyone.